Well, I have a little disclaimer before I tell the story. The last time I told this story, somebody listening said, well, that's just strange. I said, well, how appropriate. What a good story for today. I think most of you who know me know that my younger daughter married her college sweetheart, and he's African American. I have talked here about their wedding before and how it was sort of a meshing of the cultures. Excuse me, but there's a backstory. You see, when my daughter came home to tell me she was engaged, she was so excited, and all of a sudden she stopped and froze, and she said, what about Granny, my mom? What are we going to tell Granny? You see, my mom grew up, lived nowhere other than Nashville, Tennessee for her entire life. She was born in the late 20s, grew up in the 30s and the 40s. I mean, her time, her life there in the South in Nashville, Tennessee, racial issues were very black and white. Now, my mom would never have considered herself a racist, and she would tell you that she certainly believed in equal rights. But let me tell you something, there's a big difference between believing in equal rights and having your granddaughter marry into that culture. This was hard for her. So my sister and I drew straws to see who would tell her. And she got the short straw. And it's a good thing because my sister is no nonsense. Oh my goodness, she's a rip the Band-Aid off kind of person. So she goes right in, yeah, this is what's happening. There were a lot of tears, a lot of gnashing of teeth, and a lot of what my mother loved to do. She said, oh Lordy, oh Lordy. But through the months and years to come, my mother would begin to know Josh for the kind and caring man that he is. You see, in Josh's culture and in his family, grandmothers are revered. They're honored. So it was easy for him to take care of her and to love her. I mean, let me tell you, when we went out, it was Josh's arm that was extended. It was Josh's arm that my mother took. She came to rely on him and to count on him, and he was there. She came to love him. Now, fast forward a little bit. My grandson is born, Jaden. It's her great-grandson. And my mom has begun that slow slide into dementia. Her mind is getting a little confused, a little clouded. And one day, while she's holding Jaden, she says to me, why is this baby so dark? You have got to keep this child out of the sun. This is ridiculous that you have let this child get this brown. And I said to my mom, Mom, he's brown because his father is black. And she looked at me kind of confused, and she said, Josh? He's not. Josh, my Josh is black? No. He's my family. You see, God had met my mother right where she was and showed her what real love looks like, real love that transcends cultural bias and historical prejudice. Real love frees us to embrace all of our history, the history in which all things are being made new. That's Rob Bell. Let that sink in. Embracing our history, a history in which all things are being made new. We are wrapping up our series today on Strange and Warm. Jeff explained last week that this comes from John Wesley, right? From his journal where he wrote that his heart was strangely warmed. I'm going to take us a little deeper into that story of John Wesley. You know, I started questioning, okay, I get the warm part. God was moving in his heart and that's warming, but why was that strange to John Wesley? He'd been a preacher, a man of God all of his life, so why was it strange to him that God would be speaking to him? Well, I think to find the answer to that, we have to back it up a few years. John Wesley is a young man on a mission from God. He is on a ship headed to America. He's going to preach in Georgia. He's going to preach to the Native Americans. And he's not the only religious man on this ship. There are a group of missionaries from Germany also on the ship. Now, the ship runs into bad weather. It's tossed and it's turned, and it looks like it might sink. And John Wesley, he's terrified. He's panicked. But he looks over at the missionaries, and they're calm, and they're singing. Of course, the ship doesn't sink, it lands. And after they landed and they're walking around, John Wesley comes to the missionaries, and he said, "How do you do that? Weren't you scared? Weren't you panicked?" And they looked at him and said, "It's our faith. Where's your faith, brother?" And that question, "Where's your faith, brother?" turned John Wesley upside down. He began to question his faith. He began to wrestle with God, and I have to tell you, it affected his ministry here in America. I mean, things went from bad to worse. John Wesley fell in love. She married someone else. He was devastated. He was angry. She came into the church to take communion, and he would not give her communion. He's a stinker. It was a big, nasty deal, and John Wesley is sent back to England. And he's defeated. I mean, really. He is frustrated. He's blown it. How can God use him now? There's another line in that journal where just above strangely warm, it said, he unwillingly went. It's a Bible study. He doesn't want to go because there's nothing left for him in this world where God would send him somewhere and count on him. There's nothing for him there, but he still goes. He still goes. And strangely enough, God chose this moment to touch his heart. The heart of a man who is fallible, who was all too human, a man who was struggling, a man who had done things, boy, he wished he hadn't. Strange. The love of God is strange, and it is amazing, and it is beautiful. It meets us where we are, it meets us how we are, and who we are. And you know what? When we get that, when we really get that, we understand the warmth of God's love. I don't know about you, but I love this part of John Wesley's story. It's authentic. It's real. And I love it because, boy, I've been there. I have wrestled with my faith. I have questioned what I believe. And let me tell you, I have done things I wish I hadn't. John Wesley's human. We are all human and real. That's authentic life. And that's how God's love is. The love of God is authentic. It's the kind of love that God expects us to have for each other and to take out into the world. Did you hear that scripture? One translation says, love is genuine. Don't pretend to love. Hold on to what is good. Treat everyone like family. And when you do that, your heart will be warmed. No, your heart will be on fire. I was Googling, I love to Google for a sermon, right? I was Googling this week authentic love, and I found something that is actually the antithesis of authentic love. How many of you have ever heard of virtue signaling? Virtue signaling. It was new for me. Virtue signaling. Virtue signaling is the action or practice of publicly expressing opinions intended to demonstrate one's good character and moral correctness on a position without participation. In other words, virtue signaling is a way to make yourself look and feel good without actually doing any good. This cartoon says it all. If you can read that. It says, my Tumblr post got about feeding the homeless got 10,000 reblogs. It's so satisfying to make a difference in the life of people. Posting about the importance of feeding the hungry without actually feeding the hungry. We live in a world where people will see through pretend, and when our culture smells pretend, we name it and claim it and spread the word. We're not fooling anybody. For us here, community of followers of Jesus, that's who we are. Here at Royal Oak First, we can put out the banner and we can wave the flag of inclusion. We can go public with it. We can go viral with it. But if we don't live it, if we don't really live it, we are the very definition of virtue signaling. We put out the welcome mat here. Whether you call the streets your home, whether you have been marginalized, pushed to the edges of society because of the color of your skin, because of who you are or whom you love, you are welcome here. But let's pause. Is that where it stops? Is that where it ends? Because let me tell you something, being welcome and being included are two very different things. Inclusion is in the heart. Inclusion takes real, authentic love. It is not opening your doors, it's opening your heart and your life. That's the kind of love that God has for us, and again, it is the kind of love God expects from us. It's crazy, undeserved love. It is strange love, not odd or bizarre. Actually, the definition of strange is unusual, surprising, unsettling. I said it at the Saturday service last week, and Jeff quoted it here for all of you on Sunday. Strange is the new normal, people. It is. If you are not continually surprised and even unsettled by the things going on in our world around us, then you are not paying attention. It's strange. And the strangest thing of all is that in the middle of it, there's the warmth of God's unfailing love and grace. June is Pride Month. This is the last Sunday in Pride Month. Our church and our community has been participating in a lot of events. I mean, we have given out a lot of bracelets. We've given out a lot of hugs. We're celebrating and honoring the LGBTQIA community. I stumble over those letters every time. It's not for any other reason that I just have a hard time saying it. I never could do Sally sells, she sells. Yeah, I can't do that. So LGBTQIA, I will say it slowly. And every time I say it, I realize that we've added a letter to the list. And I have to be honest here. Sometimes that's strange for me. And I have to ask someone, not just what the letter stands for, but what does that mean? And sometimes I'm surprised by it, often surprised by it, and sometimes a little unsettled by it. And that is okay. The beauty of the strange world in which we live is often surprising, unsettling, and we often don't understand it all. There's a lot about this world that I don't understand. There's a lot about God and about God's love that I don't understand. Remember what the psalmist says? If we try too hard to understand it, it's like counting the grains of sand. If you don't understand it all, that is okay. If you were here 2 weeks ago, Bridget Nelson talked about the fact that the number of children with ADD, ADHD, autism, and Asperger's has skyrocketed in the past few years. But here's what caught my attention. This is not because the number of children with these conditions has increased, but because we've gotten better at recognizing it. That's the world that we live in. It occurred to me this week that when we add a letter to that list, LGBTQIA, that someone has had the confidence to step out and say, this is who I am. To name that and claim it, and frankly, whether or not I understand it fully is of no consequence. Rest assured, God understands. I came to this church 3 years ago. So I'm going to say 3.5 years ago. If you had asked me what it means to be transgender, I might have given you some definition, but the truth is I didn't know. I'd never been exposed to it. I really had no idea. But on that first Saturday afternoon, when I preached my first sermon here at Royal Oak First, and yes, Jeff loves to call it the 45-minute, 6 sermons rolled into one. What are you going to do, right? It was my first time out. I thought I had to get it all in. Didn't know if I'd be back. But sitting here for all 45 minutes of it, right here in the pews on that first Saturday, was Lacey Marie. After the service, I met her. Lacey would become my friend, a part of my life, a part of the life of this church. Rarely a day goes by that I'm not inspired by her courage, by her caring, and by her pure joy. I remember the first time, yes, we'll applaud for Lacey. I remember the first time I told her, you know, you're the first transgender person I've ever met, and she said, well, I'm the first transgender I ever met. Lacey always keeps us laughing. But again, another moment of honesty, when Lacey told me she wanted to come to the Tuesday night ladies' book and Bible study, I paused for a moment. It's the mom in me. I'm protective. I worry too much. Would everybody be accepting? Would everybody be kind? Ladies of Tuesday, forgive me that I would have even for a moment questioned your ability to love and include. Lacey became one of the girls. She is one of the girls. That, my friends, is inclusion. And Lacey makes it so easy. You know, as I grow older, I can't help it. I'm becoming my mother. Yes, I put a banana in my purse at the buffet. I mean, all these crazy things that our moms do. Yeah, I'm becoming my mom. My kids tell me all the time. So don't be surprised when you come up and say to me, you know, Myra, Lacey's transgender. And I might say back to you, she's not. Lacey? My Lacey transgender? No. She's just one of the girls. True, authentic love, the kind of love God has for each of us. You know the list. No matter where we've been, no matter what we have done, no matter who we are, no matter who we love or who loves us. That's the authentic love of God. Let that sink in, because when it really sinks in and when you really, really understand that, I can't say this enough, you know the heart of God. That's the heart of God, who loves you as you are and loves each and every one of us as we are. When you know that, you know the heart of God, and your heart is on fire, and we can't help it. We'll have to see ourselves and all those around us like God sees us. And with that, we will not only welcome, we will include all those around us into our hearts, not just in the doors. That's the first step, but that is only the first step. But into our hearts and into our lives and into our community. Through the lens of God's love, we see all people, including ourselves, as the true, unrepeatable miracles that we are. I got to say that again because I tripped on that. In God's eyes and through his lens, we see ourselves as the true, unrepeatable miracles that we are. We see our true colors. That's pretty beautiful. You with your sad eyes, don't be discouraged. Oh, I realize hard to take courage. In a world full of people, you can lose sight of it all. And the darkness inside you can make you feel so small. But I see your true colors shining through. I see your true colors, and that's why I love you. So don't be afraid to let them show your true colors, beautiful like a rainbow. Show me your smile then. Don't be unhappy, can't remember when I last saw you laughing. If this world makes you crazy, you're taking all you can bear. Well, you just call me up, 'cause you know I'll be there. I'll see you, sing it with me. True colors shining through. I see your true colors. That's why I love you. So don't be afraid to let them show your true colors, are shining through. I see your true colors. That's why I love you. So don't be afraid to let them show your true colors, true colors are beautiful. Yeah, they are. Like a rainbow. Pray with me, please. Oh God of our true colors, you love each and every one of us. Well, you created each and every one of us, and you created us in your image. Oh God, what an image that must be. Help us to see the beauty in that, the beauty in ourselves and the beauty in each other, and to take that real, authentic love that you give us every day out into the world every day. In the name of Jesus Christ, we pray. Amen.